Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA, and I'm your host, Andre Natera. Today I'm joined by Chef Benjamin Maides of Au Courant restaurant in Omaha, a James Beard-nominated chef known for his seasonal, ingredient-driven cooking and consistently evolving tasting menus. We talk about his time cooking in northern Italy, the cultural and culinary lessons, balancing restaurant life, running a farm, being a corporate chef, and his plans for a new tasting menu concept. Let's get into it. Stay tuned. ChefWorks is the gold standard for workwear. In the kitchen and beyond, with millions of wearers globally, they are the largest and most trusted culinary apparel brand in the world. For over 30 years, ChefWorks has been crafting performance workwear designed by industry experts, tested in the toughest kitchens, and trusted by the biggest names in the business. Whether you're just getting started in the kitchen or a seasoned professional, mom and pop to leading franchise, ChefWorks has the gear and uniform program built for you. Find out how ChefWorks works for you. Save 20% on your order with our exclusive discount code. Just enter Chef's PSA 20 at checkout.
Back in my younger days, I was working in northern Italy in the Dolomite Mountains. One of my old chefs, Philip Meisel, was the meat cook at the French Laundry.
He was the meat cook at French Laundry?
Yep. And we ended up randomly becoming friends and random roommates at this place called Pink Palace, where all the line cooks would just run through all the time as like a revolving door.
And where in Italy is this, by the way?
This is in Alto Adige. It's kind of I call it the Aspen of Italy.
This is where speck.
Yeah, that is where speck comes from. There's speck everywhere there. And so, long story short, I was like, I want to come work in Europe. He's like, I got a job for you. And I was like, okay. So I go to Italy and I'm spending quite a few seasons there.
How old were you at this time?
I'm probably 25, 26, 27.
Just a young
buck.
Yeah.
And he kind of takes me under his wing. I go to my grandma's house in Switzerland. He picks me up. We go to Italy and we just spend a lot of time there cooking in the mountains. Wellness hotel, 5 stars, daily changing menu, just kind of super fun culinary journey type stuff, and just had a blast. So New Year's Eve, we would always have to stay late and cook like cotechino and lentils. So we cook the sausage, late night meal, we do the whole menu, and then we do this cotechino, lentils, chili aglio olio pasta. And, speaking of speck,
sounds delicious, by the way.
It's so good. I still think about it all the time. And so our speck purveyor would bring us these big red tubs, and that's what all our meat came in. And so New Year's Eve, he hooks us up, and there's German beer. He was from Germany, lives in Germany, and beers, champagne, Prosecco, just like party treasure chest.
Happy
for
New Year's.
Finishing. Yeah, Happy New Year's. So we kind of finish service. We all start drinking. We all start hanging out. We're just having a blast. He's always like, Ben, just love having you, appreciate you, all that cool, like chef, like cook stuff when you're all drinking together. And we're just getting after it. And it's probably 1 a.m.
Everyone's shit-faced?
Yeah, everyone's shit-faced. They like had a dance party. I'm sure some of us ended up on the dance floor for the hotel with the hotel guests. It's wild. And then we're like, all right, we're going. All of a sudden, we had staff housing. And then all of a sudden, somebody goes to leave and our phones start blowing up. And they're like, they have a checkpoint. And in Italy, if you get a DUI, you're toast.
Why? Why is
you
that?
just lose your license. It is like the ultimate, like you do not get a DUI in Europe. They will pull your license. They'll pull your car. Like it's terrible. So Meisel, my chef, he calls us and is like, you need to walk. So we start walking. He somehow...
Listen to you, so it's cold outside.
Yeah, it's cold outside. Every single car gets pulled over. He passes the breathalyzer, and I think my little brother was there at the time. He worked a season there as well. The crew of us, we huffed it back and we walked, and I've never been so happy to just walk probably a mile home because it was wild. I was like, they did not mess around over there.
Well, how was working in Italy? Because you had come from some great restaurants in the United States, right? And then going to Italy to basically continue your culinary training. What was the culture shock of going from the United States to Italy? Like how different are the kitchen systems and the culture, and what were some of the more difficult things that you needed to learn? Obviously, you know how to cook with a knife and pots and pans, but when you walk into a kitchen, I'm assuming the culture's different.
Yes, 100%. So we were so far up north, there was three languages: German, Italian, and Ladinish, which is like this Italian mountain language. So the culture up there, it's almost German. So yeah, Italy, super different culture just from, the people, the language.
Did you speak any Italian?
I did
Like
not.
not even Duolingo level?
No, but I spoke Swiss and German. So I'm still fluent in Swiss. I'm still pretty good at German. So obviously growing up in Switzerland, I have a good base of Swiss, German. We kind of spoke that always growing up. I was able to hold on to that while I moved here. So we predominantly spoke German. The kitchen was awesome because my chef, he kind of came from Napa as well. So it was always green tape, it was always cut your tape. As a lot of the kitchen culture was there, but I really fell in love with just the food and the culture. The hotelier's brother right up the road had a farm. We got like award-winning cheese and yogurt delivered from them. The speck came from down the road, and it just that smell of slicing that speck, that smoke, amazing. I still love it. Just making pasta. It's where I really fell in love with like making pasta and risotto. And it's just like, hey, if your risotto granule stuck, you start it over.
When people think of like that part of Italy, what are some of the national or the local dishes that people would recognize right away when people think of, you know?
Okay, you're gonna laugh, but Schlutzkrapfen.
That sounds super Italian.
It's really cool. It's this rye pasta dough stuffed with ricotta and spinach, Parmesan Reggiano, tomato concasse, and finished with brown butter. And that was like Schlutzkrapfen, speck, Knedderly, all this kind of like dumpling. I loved it because you get the Italian pasta culture, but you also really get this hearty German, Austrian. It was an hour to Austria, so 45 minutes. So you're right there, 100%. And, everybody, the people that work there, they kind of come from all over. So you find this cool melting pot of cuisine, culture, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Did you end up speaking Italian when you came back?
I did. My Italian got really good. Now I still joke around in Italian. It's not as good as it used to be, but we'd take the trash out and we'd be staring at the most beautiful mountains. It was amazing.
Yeah. I used to be much more fluent. I'm not, when I say I'm fluent, it's like if you're not good at Italian, I'm pretty good. But if you're good, it's like when I speak to when I speak to people that speak fluent Italian, I understand, but they speak so fast. Sometimes I was like, if they slow down, I got you, and I could communicate if they're slow. But when they start blah 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 blah, and then depending on where they're from, if they're from Naples or they're from somewhere, like, you lost me.
It's hard. And my kitchen Spanish was pretty good, and they sound so similar. So I would get there and I think I'd be speaking Italian. I'd be speaking Spanish. The guy, like, we had this guy, Claudio, the most amazing quintessential classic Italian guy. And he would just shake his head and look and be like, he's not speaking Italiano. It says Spanish. And I'm like, oh, sorry.
That's hilarious. My books, by the way, for people that are listening, my books, so I've written several books. They're translated in Spanish and Italian. Yeah. I used the Italian for me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I could listen to them and read them in Italian. So it was like practice for me. So that's why I wanted to translate them in Italian.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
It was for people that speak Italian, but it was also for me to continue my Italian, because it's like, I know what I wrote and now I know what it means in Italian.
That's awesome. I think learning another language is, everybody should, kind of be multilingual for sure.
Yeah, I'm not as good as I used to be, especially since the podcast. I don't do it as much, but yeah, my Spanish is also getting rusty.
It's terrible now, but it's good. It's gotten better.
So what's really interesting about you, for people that don't know, is you have almost like two careers at once.
Yes.
Can you explain what your two different roles are in the restaurant industry? Because you have two very distinct roles that are very important, but also very different.
Yep. So, I guess to make a long story short, coming back from Italy, I ended up kind of coming back to Omaha, kind of started running kitchens, wanted to start cooking my own food. That's when I opened Au Courant restaurant in Omaha. That's going on 9 years here next week, which
Great
is
restaurant.
exciting.
Been nominated, James Beard nominated restaurant as
Yep.
well, right?
2020, right before COVID. And, everyone knows, you open your dream restaurant and you think at some point it's going to make money. Well, it's been successful, but we started having kids. We needed benefits. So long story short, I started looking at the corporate world just to help supplement. So I opened up a restaurant for a beef company in Lincoln, Nebraska, ended up going to work for my corporate job now. For the restaurant group, they kind of reached out and they were like, hey, we need a culinary director. And so at that point, I was able, after 3.5 years of running the kitchen every day, I would spend, days at the restaurant, and then I would eventually go to my corporate job Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 as a culinary director. We have a test kitchen. I do all of the research and development for the new concepts. I mean, there's 50 restaurants in 13 states. It's not a small group for sure, but
50 restaurants is a lot.
yeah.
So in one role, in case people didn't really catch what you just said, because this is why it blows my mind every time I talk to you. Like, I don't know how you do it. In one role, you're the restaurant owner, chef.
Yep.
You're working service. You're calling the pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nightly, sometimes, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And during the day, you're also a corporate chef for a different group.
Yep.
That has nothing to do with your restaurant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And maybe even more restaurants on the way.
Yep, exactly. So
That's fucking crazy.
it's wild. Every Thursday, no matter what, we change the menu every week at Au Courant. So every Thursday, I finish my job, I get in my car, drive down Maple Street, because the office is at 144th and Maple, and I drive on to 63rd and Maple, 60th and Maple. So every Thursday, I drive down Maple Street. I get to the office 7:30, 8 o'clock, drive down Maple Street, close down with the guys, 11:30, 12, midnight. We do a manager's meeting Thursday nights, and then I try to sleep for a few hours at the gym in the morning and do it all over again.
That's wild. How do you do it? Like, how do you manage your time? What are some tools that keep you efficient and on task?
That's a great question. I've always struggled. I've really pushed myself to be more organized. I probably started CrossFit about 6 months ago, 3 days a week. I've never worked out. I've never really been a gym guy, but I needed something to just get me up, get me moving, get me focused. And I can honestly say I'm feeling much better and much more mentally clear. So that allows me to focus. And, I separate things out. When I'm at Flagship, I'm doing Flagship things. And when I'm at Au Courant, I'm doing Au Courant things. And I think that kind of helps me separate those two. And it's a different style. It's a different level of cuisine. It's different concepts. It's different stuff. And so, what we do at Au Courant, or what I do in my day job, is two different things. Sometimes I'm gone for 3 weeks to a month opening a restaurant and doing a big opening in Scottsdale or Dallas or whatnot. But, somehow I've just been, my wife's been very supportive and very helpful.
And your wife's the pastry chef there.
Yep. She's the pastry chef. She's doing an amazing job. I'm blown away. She comes up with the coolest desserts every week. And, we have a 20-acre hobby farm. We got cows.
Oh yeah, I
and
forgot
pigs.
to mention you also have a farm.
So that takes some time as well. But, honestly, I just manage it by just trying to get up every day. And, my motto is GBD, get better daily, and push and crush, and I just get up, and I feel very grateful to be doing what I'm able to do. Some people are like, I have to work. I'm like, I don't have to work. I get to work. I get up. I get to do what I love and create food. And that's awesome.
Do you ever, what, do you ever experience burnout? Not because you're always going, like, or is this like fully what you love to do?
I love that. And I'm going to kick this one back to you because I love your theory on burnout. And I've heard you talk about a lot on this podcast, and I can agree with you more. I think it is a state of mind. And if you love what you're doing, it's true. Like, you will find the energy, you will find the motivation. I mean, I get tired, absolutely. But, I just keep going, and I keep pushing, and I keep my eye on the prize. And, what's the next menu we're going to write? What's the next thing we're going to do? What's the next cool, really great dish we're going to create? And that keeps me motivated and that keeps me excited. And, I love your philosophy. Like, burnout's different for everybody. I get it. It's hard, but I've just been able to kind of, I guess, have the passion, maybe overcome that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. When you really love what you do, and for people that haven't heard my opinion on burnout, this is my opinion. I'll share it again. Is that when you truly love something, it's hard to kick you out of the kitchen. And I'm just going to use the kitchen as an example. Like, you could work 20 hours, and it feels like you can't wait to get back and start creating again because you're around people that you enjoy being around. You're being creative. You enjoy the restaurant. Everything seems to be clicking. But then there's the other aspect where you're around assholes. You don't like it when I'm at work. You don't like the food that you're cooking. You could be burned out after, like, as soon as you walk through the door.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
you feel disgusted as soon as you walk in. You're like, I don't like this anymore. So I think it's not always a question of burnout. It's a question of first ask yourself, do you like what you're doing? Because if you don't like what you're doing and you don't like your job, it might come across as burnout, but no, you just don't like it. Burnout, I think, does happen, by the way, on a physical side. Like, you could just be sleep deprived and you need to take a day off. You need some rest, right? Your brain needs to recharge. Your body needs to recharge. But I think, I mean, I've pushed myself to some pretty extremes, and there's a lot of people that push themselves to extremes. So that would be my first thing I would push back on people is, are you burned out, or do you just not like your job?
Yeah. And I mean, it's like I look at cooking as a sport. We work long hours, we do long, hard things, and you don't hear pro football players complaining about how much, exercise they're doing. It's like this is our sport. We do it. And, I turned 40 this year. That was a big thing for me. So I'm really trying to focus on my health so I can do this for another 10, 15,
Right.
20 years because I want to be that old guy, like in the kitchen, that old French chef. He's still over the stove hanging out with his crew. Alain Passard, I saw him and I was like, what a legend.
It's funny, I had this guy that worked for me, and he was like burned out. He's like, I'm burned out, I'm burned out. And then all of a sudden, a cute girl that he fell in love with started working there. He was like signing up for extra shifts. Like, I thought you were burned out. Now he wanted to pick up extra shifts. He wants to work every day. Like, oh well, I thought you were burned out. So it's interesting how that environment really does affect it.
Yeah, fascinating. But yeah, I feel, at the end of the day, I feel very grateful to be doing the things that I'm doing. I feel very grateful for the opportunities I've had, and I'm honestly probably having the most fun I think I've ever had in my career up to this point.
Yeah. Does one ever become does it bleed into the other one? So I'll give you an example of what I mean. If things are not going well at the restaurant, does that ever bleed into the other job, or vice versa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I'm out of town and, my shifts need to be covered at Au Courant, every Sunday we do a communal table menu meeting. Every Thursday I go through the new food with the team. If I can't be there for that, that's tough, and they do an amazing job. They figure it out, or vice versa. If I'm stressed out at Au Courant, it usually inevitably ends up bleeding into flagship. Luckily, we have our little test kitchen and it's pretty chill.
Do you ever do they ever become a break from one another? So, like, you know, I just can't wait to go to my other job. Like, I can't wait to be done here so I could go there, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of nice because if I get done working a long, hard service, I'm like, my office job is pretty chill. So it's pretty low pressure. So I'm
So
like,
for people that can't understand what you go through, like, just for context, like, you own a farm
yeah,
with animals,
yeah,
you have a restaurant,
yeah.
and you're also a corporate chef for another restaurant group.
Absolutely.
Don't anyone sitting here tell me it can't be done. It can be done.
And I have 2 kids, so I get that too. So, but yeah, no, it's wild. I have a lot of people ask me how I do it. And, I'm a firm believer that, you kind of get one shot in life. And, it's true. You have to explore and try everything. And every opportunity, everything I've ever done, everything I've ever tried, I've been grateful because I've learned so much.
You're like the Elon Musk chefs.
I don't know that far.
You're like CEO of multiple
I just need a billion-dollar company, which will never happen in a
Yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah, maybe that's not the greatest comparison. Cuisine wise, between the two. So are you constantly in creative mode? And do the two restaurant, or the restaurant group and the restaurant, do they feed each other creatively?
Yes, 100%. Cooking my own food, whatever that means, is something I've, finally been able to do. And I was listening to something the other day that I thought was very profound. Creativity is a muscle. If you don't practice it and you don't use it, you lose it.
I said that on show.
Did you? Okay,
About it.
maybe it was you. Okay, probably. Probably. Sounds like something you would have said. Yeah, I agree. Um, and we opened Au Courant, and I was like, shit, we got tomatoes are leaking seasonality. Like the first week, I was like, we're gonna change the menu every week. And everyone was like, oh crap. And it was really tough in the beginning, but now it just kind of becomes a thing because we were ground farmers. You have this, bring this in, we'll cook this. And we change the menu every so it forces you to get creative. And us, we put this great, cool bone-in veal schnitzel on the menu first year. And I was like, I don't want to be the schnitzel restaurant, or I don't want to be the roasted chicken restaurant or this restaurant. And so very early on, I was like, we're going to keep changing things. I'm never going to get bored of it. And it kind of forces this creativity. So for me to sit down and write menus, it's so easy. I see product, I get inspired, and we come up with dishes. We always push ourselves to do new dishes, and that flows over when we're developing. We did a Mediterranean concept, we did kind of an American grill concept, and I'm able to kind of push and pull right here, there, everywhere. And it's been really good for me to force myself to just keep changing, keep evolving. Yeah, is there some dishes that get missed or slip through the cracks, or maybe the 1.0 wasn't as good as it can have been? Sure. But, I'll tell you what, we always work really hard that everything that leaves the pass is hot, seasoned properly, and looks presentable.
Here's my exercise for creativity that I would tell my cooks when they used to work for me is if I had, for the sake of conversation, 10 people, and we needed to change 10 items on the menu, I would say each of you needs to come up with 10 dishes.
Okay.
So every single cook had to come up with 10 dishes, right? And so when it was time for menu meeting, we'd have 100 dishes to choose from because each one came up with 10. And then we'd look at that and say, okay, but we only need 10, but we have 100 to choose from. And it made things super easy. You say, we're going to take this one, this one, this one. I like that. And then sometimes you mix and match. Like, oh, I like the sauce with this duck instead. Let's go that way. So that was one creative exercise that I would tell people. Sorry, I'm going to give people another creative exercise that could be very beneficial to them as well, is every day come up with 10 new dishes. Even if you don't do it, just go home and write down 10 dishes. And what you'll notice is like day one, and do this for 30 days. Day one is pretty easy. Day two gets a little harder. But by the time you're on day 15, it's like, okay, you're kind of tapped out of your creative ideas. But by the time you're like on day 25, like it's a whole new creative breakthrough that you've gotten to, because you've gotten all the low-hanging fruit ideas out of the way.
And then you're really finding some cool stuff, which is, one thing I always love to say is I'm not excited about the food I'm cooking today. I'm excited about the food we're going to be cooking 6 months from now. So when you kind of embrace this idea and this process of just always doubling down and continuing to create, I mean, like you said, you'll kind of get to that point and you'll come up with some cool, unique stuff. And, it's so much fun to see the food evolve and get tighter and do this, or we did that for a while, or now we're doing this. I still love it.
What is your creative process, and do you have a different creative process for each job?
Yes. So the more corporate job, we'll usually travel. We have a great cookbook collection. I always like to put myself in the mindset of what we're going to be working on. Are we doing Japanese steakhouse? Okay, well, what are some of the best Japanese steakhouses in the country? I'll do a bunch of digging. What are some really cool Japanese steakhouse cookbooks? We'll go take a trip to Chicago for a day and we'll go eat at a bunch, probably 5-6 restaurants a day. What are some really cool Japanese concepts? Then we'll usually do an idea wall. We'll print off some inspiration. We'll pull out some cookbook pictures, whatever. And it'll start as the theoretical wall. Then we build a theoretical menu. Then we start R&Ding, cook for every dishes. That's usually a 3-phase approach of literally writing down every gram, writing down everything.
Are all the recipes in both locations in kilos and grams? Or
yes and no. So when I started at corporate, it was pounds, ounces all over the place. I've always been a gram guy. Obviously, I'm Swiss. Got to have the metric system. It makes so much more sense. And, we've kind of been converting that over into grams and just changing a lot of stuff. I mean, it's wild how it's evolved. in the time I've been there in the last 5 years. It's just crazy to see. And then, Au Courant's much more off the cuff. We have moleskins, you write it down. Everybody sits down on Sunday. Everybody's welcome to bring ideas. Everyone can bring whatever. We do a round table. And what do you want to cook this week? What do you want to see? What do we like? We do a farmer's list. What do we have from our farmers right now? What proteins are we really excited about? I got this really cool Wagyu guy, brings me the coolest Wagyu. How can we feature this product? What components do we have? Oh, we got some fermented green garlic. Let's do something with that. So that's kind of just the two different, but one's long and drawn out and very dialed in. The other one's a little bit more off the cuff, but it's funny because the two, the concepts are so different when you look at them on paper.
I've been changing my mind a lot on recipes, by the way. I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, we
already.
have. Yeah.
In speaking with Casey Wall and some other chefs, specifically Casey Wall and David Breeden, more so David Breeden. Casey Wall explained to me how he was doing baker's percentages on his recipes. David Breeden has told me that for years, but I've just never done it. I've seen the bakers in the pastry shop do it. But now that I understand, I would definitely encourage people to do all their recipes by percent. It just seems like now that it's so much easier to scale. It's so much easier to write the recipes and go up or down. And if those percentages, as long as they're bulletproof, they won't fuck up.
And I'm working on a new project right now that will be kind of transition away from kind of my corporate life, kind of more out onto my own. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do baker's percentage. I'm going to do all that and just start there because, blank slate is great, but now it's kind of the time to double down and make that happen.
So, and I hope I'm allowed to talk about this on air.
Go ahead, yeah.
But you're also thinking about maybe opening up a tasting menu restaurant.
So, yeah, that's in the works. I'm transitioning out of my corporate position. I'm going to try something again on my own with some partners that I'm really excited about.
So different from Au Courant.
Different from Au Courant. Au Courant will, the team's going to help. It'll be part of that family as well. But I'm kind of taking a plunge. I'm going to try it. We'll see how it goes. But this will be the only tasting menu only restaurant in Omaha. There'll be a downstairs as well that we'll be doing kind of Northern Italian style pizza and pasta, kind of back to my Italian roots and kind of back to my fine dining side of things. But I'm really excited to get back in there and start cooking and just pushing myself. I got a few more years of just grinding.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since we spoke about this, but you're planning on being the chef, like chef de cuisine in the kitchen of this tasting. Yeah.
So I'll be there donating probably next 4 years of my life, working doubles. But, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into it. I think, on the corporate side of things, you're just out. You're just not in the day-to-day. And maybe something's wrong with me, but I still love the day-to-day. I still love topping off my pepper mill. I still love wiping down my station. I still love slicing proteins. I still love plating. I still love all that stuff. So I'm kind of eager to just give it my all and double down and really push myself and see what I can come up with food-wise and concept-wise and execution-wise.
Yeah. When you look at culinary and you view it through the same lens that you're talking about, where you're able to play, you're able to plate, you're able to cook, you're able to cut proteins. And if that brings you a tremendous amount of joy, how the fuck can you get burned out? Yeah. Like you're doing what you love to do. Yeah. I love fucking plating. I love cutting fish. I love butchering, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
How am I going to get burned out of that? I fucking love doing it.
You're absolutely right. And I think there was a time when I was running the kitchen every single day, and my rule at Au Courant was never count the hours. Never, ever count the hours. I can tell you I worked a lot of hours those first 3.5 years. And I think I did kind of get to that point. And I think, through shifting and doing other things and learning other things, running our farm, working a corporate job, doing all these other things have kind of re-inspired me to get back to that. And I have a newfound appreciation for that now. And I know now that that's where I want to be and that's what I want to do. And I'm looking forward to it.
So for people that don't know, we've had a lot of conversations. I have a lot of hot takes on tasting menus.
Yep.
And you don't always agree with me, but that's okay. So what is your opinion on tasting menus right now? And what are you planning on doing with the restaurant specifically?
So I think we'll probably do 10 courses max. I think we'll probably work some stuff in there.
Is that going to include like bites at the beginning or mignardises or something?
Yeah, yes. It'll be a progression. It's always evolving. It'll be, at Au Courant, we do a 6-7 course tasting menu. That is always going to be kind of our staple. It's always burner, bread and butter. Price point's like $85. I think it's super approachable. We're going to probably double or triple that price point. We'll really double down, buy nicer product, do a nice progression. I have a pretty standard progression. We'll always do a house-made pasta. We'll probably start with some smaller bites. We'll work into it. And we talked about this before, and I love this. It'll be somewhat beef focused just because we have some really cool, unique access to some beef programs that are, I think, world class right in our backyard, about an hour north of us. There's a lot of other producers that we just want to highlight, and it'll evolve. And max, probably 10, 11 courses, maybe some supplements, maybe, I don't know, but I do want it to be unique. I do want it to be very kind of Nebraska specific.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's going in an old kind of historical building. So I kind of want to tie into that and just kind of, as you're seeing like a lot of old school stuff kind of become new school now, I kind of want to dive into that and, have the food. I'm working with trying to find organic, Nebraska flour. I'm really trying to double down and just how can we just encapsulate this whole terroir, if you will, and get that on the plate.
Cooking proteins, I think, is something that's cooking proteins properly and advanced cooking of proteins is something that I think you're going to start to see more and more of, especially when you see chefs like Ron McKinley. Who's like, he's the fucking goat when it comes to meat cooking.
And just
right
watching him butcher it. I got some work to do.
Like watching him do shit, and it's like anything that he makes, it's layered. He's going to make a farce. He's going to do something with the fat. He's going to he's going to make the cuisson just perfect after the cook is just perfect. And you see that, and I'm starting to notice like a lot of chefs get really good at plating, and a lot of chefs get really good at creating raw dishes that don't require you to cook anything.
Yeah.
And I think what's unique about what you're talking about is you are going to have a lot more meat-centric dishes.
Yep.
It's going to go back to cooking.
Yes. And, and you're right. Like sous vide kind of ruined that in a way. And I was never the hugest fan of sous vide. I did it plenty of time, but it's almost too easy. I kind of call it cheating. But, the art of really nailing and roasting a protein and letting it rest out and letting it bloom perfectly, there's not a lot of people that can do that, and it's awesome. I did a stage at 11 Madison Park years ago, and, the sous chef walked up to me with a lamb loin. He goes, "You got 45 minutes, make a dish, go make 2 plates of food."
Yeah.
And, I'll never remember, but luckily I worked at a restaurant where, we use cake testers and we tempt our meat and we let it rest. And I was so nervous slicing into it, but, I was able to slice into it. It was just a quarter temperature under, but, I was rested and it didn't bleed on the plate. And, I'm very grateful that I kind of learned how to cook proteins like that. But you're right. I think it's all coming back. Farces, layering, roulades, all that. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
It's funny you say the cake tester. I think that's like one of the most underutilized tools.
100%.
Fuck. When I see someone with a cake tester that's not in the pastry shop, I'm like, okay, they know how to cook.
Yeah.
It's like a little clue that they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? It's like they have a cake tester.
It's a game changer. Nobody uses it. I'm like, my little brother's like, "What are you doing?" She sees a thermometer. I'm like, "Sorry, dude, I'm old school."
Yeah. They used to say, back when I was a young cook, the chefs would have mustaches.
Yeah.
And the reason they would, this is what my chef told me, like the reason chefs have mustaches is because of all the burns from the
cake tester.
Yeah. The cake tester, the needle that they would use to tempt meat is like, so the mustache would hide the scars.
We used to say, if you burned him, if the cake tester burned you, throw it out and start over right now because she gone.
Right.
Like if it burned you, it's toast. It is going to be well done. So
yeah, I love lamb. It's funny that you're talking about lamb loin. I was driving the other day. I was like, I want to stop at the store and just buy a rack of lamb. I haven't cooked a rack just at home, right? Because I don't have a place that I'm cooking at professionally, but I just miss cooking a perfect rack of lamb.
Oh man, it's the best. Well-rested lamb is like, and you can't serve lamb medium rare. It's got to be mid-rare medium. Like it just has to be more of that protein. That fat needs to rest. Like it just, I don't know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, cooking meat properly, and then in that same conversation is also cooking fish properly.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crispy skin, basted, not cold, not overcooked.
I went to Prelude here in Austin. So my friend Chef Matthew Peters, shout out to Matt Peters, amazing chef, Bocuse d'Or winner, the only American to ever do it. And he sent out this little fish course. I happen to be with Ron McKinley.
Okay.
So Ron and I are sitting there having cocktails and snacks, and this beautiful fish course comes out, and it was like two things on the plate off the top of it.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful crust on the fish, beautiful fish, and a caviar like a beurre blanc, but with caviar in it. It's like the best fucking fish course I've had in long time.
That's amazing.
And it was like, why? Well, because the three things on the plate, the crust, the fish, and the sauce, perfect.
I love that.
The crust was crisp. The fish was like perfect. And the sauce was like perfect. It's like people overcomplicate. They think they need like 100 things. Like, if you give me 3 perfect things, I'm going to talk about on the air for fucking 20 minutes.
And all the chefs say that, less is more, like pulling stuff away. And, I'm learning how to do that, but it's always easier said than done. It really is. But yeah, I'm kind of bummed. We were going to go to Prelude, but they're literally randomly closed this couple days I'm in Austin. So I'll have to go on the list for later, but I'm excited to check it out.
Another recent memory that I have that, again, talking about seafood, I ate at Este here in Austin, which while you're here, you should go check it out. So shout out to Fermin Yunus and the crew there. We went and ordered the Shellfish Tower for 2. It's like, I'm with another chef, and we're like, let's just get the Shellfish Tower. And the Shellfish Tower at Este is like, fuck. It's so good. It's so good. And again, it's one of these lost art things. Is like, if you could execute well on your Shellfish Tower, like, make sure the prawns are poached properly. They're not overcooked. They're not rubbery. Make sure that the oysters are fresh. Make sure the lobster's cooked right. Make sure if you have a crudo or something, like, make sure the fish is fresh. People miss that. The basics. Basics.
Absolutely. And, there's something to be said about, working in a lot of different style of restaurants. You can work at a restaurant that's not very food focused and do very high volume. You're going to become a fast chef. There's something to be said about all these different experiences you're going to have that, everyone's like, I'm a fine dining chef. Well, it's great. But like, have you ever banged out a banquet for 300 people? Can you make this for that many people without overcooking it? There's a certain skill set of all these different restaurants that I think make really well-rounded chefs and cooks, that it's not a bad thing. They're like, oh, you worked here? I'm like, well, yeah, you became fast. You did this. You got good at that. So I'm a firm believer in...
You learned how to not panic when you need 100 portions really quick.
Exactly. Stuff like that I think are really good skills that sometimes people kind of frown upon. But I'm like, that's good. Like, you got to have a different range. You got to try different things. You got to learn all kinds of different styles of stuff, because it's only going to make you better.
Like you said range, so it made me think of actors. Like, actors with range can play a lot of different parts. Yeah. Or else, if you're only good at one thing, you get typecast. Like, no,
100%.
You're only going to play the Italian mafia character,
and that's it.
That's
it.
That's
all she wrote.
That's all you got. But if you have range and you could do a lot of different things, like, you have an exponential amount of opportunities in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what are you excited about currently on the tasting menu?
We just did a super fun menu these last 2 weeks. We brought in some Ikejime snapper.
Mm-hmm.
We had some fermented golden tomato water. We have a smoker out behind the restaurant. We smoked that, made kind of our dashi, if you will. Did that with the tomato water, just very clean.
That. Yeah.
Black lime puree, crispy skin fish, very light, very simple.
How'd you make the tomato dashi?
So I just took golden, organic, golden cherry tomatoes from one of our farmers, fermented that, 2% salt, cleaned up the Ikejime fish, cleaned up the bones really nice, threw them on the smoker for probably a couple hours, turned that into the stock, aromatics. I usually do light aromatics, onions, fennel, bay leaf, white pepper, and then cooked that for about an hour, cleaned that up, did like 2-to-1, smoked fume. We made took some kombu as well and steeped that in there, kind of made like a dashi-esque, and did a tableside pour on that. We have this really cool Wagyu farmer. It's called North 40 Beef. I literally met this guy on Craigslist. I bought a full-blood Wagyu cow from him, and he's like, I have a Wagyu program. Here's a ribeye. And I saw it, and I was like, this is amazing. So I met our Wagyu farmer on Craigslist. We started buying beef from him, and I'm blown away. Blown away. So we did just a very simple, we took Denver, we smoked it. We did actually sous vide this, which we never do. But it just, the smoke flavor captured so well in the sous vide, just cold smoked. And then we have just foraged hen of the woods right now. We have a really cool local mushroom guy, made a duxelle, mushroom dumpling, just kind of highlight the meat with our chicken jus, and some sauerkraut puree and garnish. But I mean, those two dishes were just a lot of fun to plate. Colin, my chef de cuisine, did a really cool like mushroom chip. And, we're getting there. We're still learning, but I feel like we're having some fun. So
Do you is there anything right now that it really excites you about cooking?
yeah, product.
Product.
Like product.
Yeah, because I know you're big time into sustainable agriculture.
Yeah, it's kind of why we kind of do the whole farm thing. It just helps connect you with where stuff's coming from. Rule number one, it's too much work. Like all those farmers that show up with those bus tubs of vegetables, I'm like, you guys are killing it. I understand now how hard that is, and how much work that is, and building soil health, and, building, good soil is good food.
Yeah.
Good food is, becoming somewhat quickly obsolete, and that's what gets me excited, is supporting farmers that are growing things properly, that are doing things regeneratively, they are composting, they are doing this, and it just gives you a better product. And you taste the difference. It's so wild. I mean, when you take Cisco basil and local basil.
What do you have right now on the farm for you? Like at your farm?
Yep. So we do heirloom breed of pigs called Kunis from New Zealand.
Okay.
They're kind of a pasture pig. We've been serving those at the restaurant. I feed them out. I take them to a USDA processor. They come whole. I butcher them. We have a ton of fun breaking down whole animals. We do just a ton of different stuff. Cure your own bacon, do, pork schnitzel with the legs. I bone out the legs, we'll smoke the bones and make sugo. We'll really try to really utilize everything.
Do you have like a charcuterie program that you do as well, or not really?
I don't. My buddy does some really awesome charcuterie down in Lincoln, so we use his stuff. But bacon, guanciale, that's like how any other like lesser cured stuff, we'll do a lot of that. I do like making sausage. We'll make like merguez with like traditional sheep's casings and lamb and stuff like that. I love doing that. Eggs, I will say the eggs from the farm, it's wild. It's day and night.
Why?
The yolks, it's day and night.
Is it flavor? Is it color?
It's all of the above.
And the way the shells break too, right?
It's wild. I wish I could not be so busy and just really focus on farming. I think that's my retirement dream, is do an actual farm restaurant, farm table restaurant at the farm. But it is an insane amount of work. I have so much respect. I'm up, I'm feeding cows, I'm feeding pigs. At night, I'm feeding cows, I'm feeding pigs, I'm shutting in the chickens.
It's insane how much you do. It's fucking insane. Like running a farm, being a father, owning a restaurant, being a corporate chef.
It's time. It's time to take it a little easier, but it's wild.
And opening another one as we speak. Yeah,
exactly.
You're fucking crazy.
Go
man.
big or go home.
You're crazy. It's wild, but that's why you're successful at what you do.
I feel grateful. I get to do it all. I have opportunities, and I feel determined to just see how far I can push it.
What do you think restaurants could do? So for people that are listening, what are some best practices to incorporate more of that sustainable agriculture into their restaurant operations?
I think one of the coolest things is just going to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I go to the farmer's market and I just scan. I'm like, hey, what's your name? I really like your stuff. What do you got? And we kind of dictate what they grow for us. But I mean, you can go to the farmer's market, you can meet a handful of farmers, talk to them. They're always happy to talk. We just found some really cool lamb out of Des Moines, by doing that. And, they're out there, they're growing stuff. They're almost always going to have extra stuff. They're almost always going to give you a good price on it. And, if you take a look at side-by-side product from a commodity vendor and your farmers, it's day and night. The quality is day and night. It just blows my mind every time they show up. We don't serve asparagus, tomatoes. I mean, there's a handful of stuff, peaches. We don't serve them unless they're in season. We just won't do it because it's just not in season. It's just not the same.
It's against the ethos of your restaurant.
Yeah,
Basically.
I mean, it's just like we wait for asparagus. We're so sick of like beets, sweet potatoes, and squash come like March.
Mhm.
Like, where is the first of the season asparagus? Where are the spring onions? Where is the stuff? And it's, we get 50, 60 pounds of just the most beautiful green asparagus. The bottom's not even woody. We trim, maybe a half inch off because we don't have to, because it's not woody. It hasn't been sitting. It just blows my mind. Peaches, we wait all year for the peaches in the summertime. Tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes. We'll always do like steak and tomatoes or stuff like that. It just blows my mind, the quality difference.
Yeah. What's the chef with better ingredients has the advantage over the one with, regardless of technical talent.
That's what Thomas Keller always said.
Yeah.
Better ingredients is better chef.
Better ingredients, better chef, right? I mean, it's, and you don't understand that until you really work with better ingredients.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I was working in Colorado, I moved out to Napa, and I was like, wow. I was like, I hated salmon. I always hated salmon. And then we got salmon, and I was like, we always had salmon tartare on the menu. And I was like, that's gross.
Yeah.
I would never eat that. I took one bite, life changed.
Yeah.
This was true, actual quality salmon.
You remember what it was?
Yeah, it was Loch Duart. I think it was Scottish.
Yeah. Scottish salmon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
I'm trying to think. I've had a God, what is it? There's a salmon right now. It'll come to me.
Bacca Frost.
No, it's
Oroking.
Oroking salmon.
That's it.
Yeah, Oroking salmon. Like, they're not sponsored the show. They should. Oroking, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Great
Send the salmon. Yeah.
This was free. Next one.
Next one's not.
Shit. Yeah, Oroking salmon is really beautiful. But I do like salmon. I mean, it's like the most popular fish. You need to sell a fish on the restaurant menu, like put the salmon on. But it sells.
And it sells, and it prepared well, it's good. I just don't love salmon like everybody else does, but I do love to cook salmon. I love cured salmon. I love smoked salmon. I love raw salmon.
Do you like tilapia, chef?
Fried tilapia at a good Mexican restaurant is delicious.
Yeah. So if you had to tell people, here's some of the things that you need to know before you open up a restaurant, like what's some good advice? Because you've opened plenty, not just on your own, but also with the group.
Yeah.
What are some things that people should know before they think that, hey, I want to go open up a restaurant?
I think the biggest learning curve for me was just learning how the money flows.
Yeah.
And learning
Explain that.
So, I'm like, we sold $5,000. I'm like, where did it all go? And I mean, a good restaurant, a well-run restaurant takes 10% to the bottom line. The average, I think the national average is 5-6%. So you got to understand 95 cents of every dollar that comes into your restaurant is spent already before anything. Food, labor, costs, prime costs, overhead, all that stuff. And that was kind of a rude realization for me, because I'm like, we're starting to bring people in. We're starting to sell more. I'm like, why don't we have any money in the bank? Why don't we have this? And, I won't recommend people doing it like I did it. I took out a $35,000 personal loan. My business partner had a space. We partnered up. We did all the construction ourselves. I built every tabletop. We painted every wall. We did everything ourselves. Got the doors open and just started doing what we did. 3 months in, I'm like, why is no one eating here? We didn't market. We didn't do anything. And I would not recommend doing that. It worked. It got us open. But, just be prepared to marathon. And that is probably the best thing that I've learned. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And, you spend so many years of your career, and you're one of those people that actually, everybody's like, I'm going to open my own restaurant. Well, then, you end up being one of those people that actually does. And it's like having a child. You're like, okay, now you had the child. Now the real work starts. And you got to raise that child for 18, 19, 20 years. So get ready, buckle down, and slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great advice. And people don't often think about it that way. They just think, I'm going to open up my restaurant and I'm going to get rich.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. And it's just like, well, then what? That was a big thing for me. I was like, I opened my restaurant and I was like, we're going to be so successful and this is going to be great. And I'm like, oh shit, like, what do I do now? I'm like, I got all this other stuff that these real life events that happen. How do you navigate that? You know, how do you be around for your kids? You know, I mean, I changed my schedule so I could watch my son 2 days a week. You know,
Yeah.
I was able to do that, but you know, you just get creative and you have to figure it out. But you know, life doesn't stop. Like all that life stuff's still going to be a thing, and you still got to manage it. You still got to make it happen, and you still got to be.
And there's always uncertainty in the economy, and something like COVID could happen and
Yeah.
shut everything down.
Yeah.
How did you go through that?
We sold to-go meals like drugs out of the back of our restaurant. We had a line of cars, and we would do take and bake lasagnas. We would do take and bake. We would do chicken pot pie. We would do an every once a week, every Friday. We would literally tray everything up in aluminum pans. And our manager, Amanda, she was the best, would have a list and be like, all right, Bob's here. All right, he gets two bottles of wine. And we just like take turns running stuff out the back door. The cars would line up. They get the lasagna, the chicken pot pie. And, you know, it helped. It really helped. So.
Normally when we get closer to wrapping up the show, I have like my wrap up questions. So let's talk about your workstation.
Okay.
So wherever that may be, maybe you're on the pass, maybe you're inside Expo, however it works. But what is the all-purpose work salt in your kitchen?
So we tried Morton's, that did not work. So now we're back to Diamond Crystal, even though I hate how expensive it's gotten.
It's hard to find too.
Yes, it is. And Fleur de Sel to finish.
Fleur de Sel to finish.
Yep. I like the granules.
Diamond Crystal all-purpose.
Yep.
Okay. What do you have like an all-purpose acid go-to for finish?
Sherry vinegar
Sherry vinegar.
And lemon juice. I love sherry. It's the best.
Specific type of sherry?
Yeah, Spanish.
Yeah.
It's got to be Spanish sherry.
Yeah. Yeah, I like sherry vinegar as well. I also sometimes like Banyuls vinegar as well.
I love making mignonette with Banyuls.
Yeah. It's expensive, but
yeah,
when I have the opportunity to use Banyuls, I'll use Banyuls. But sherry vinegar, lemon cheeks. What about your plate wipe? How do you do your plate wipe?
I love this. So we do bar polishing towels, roll them up really tight, white vinegar and water.
Yeah. You keep them all soaked on the station?
I keep them all soaked, and then I wring them out, and then I ration them out, because next thing you know, 7:30 on a Saturday night, there's one on the oyster station, and there's one over there, and then there's one somewhere else. And you're like, guys, put it back.
Got it. Yeah. Is there something that you do in your kitchen that you think is unique, that you think a lot of people could benefit from that are listening?
We kind of have, kitchens have evolved, but we can have our chefs prep and work their station, right? So we're only open 4 nights a week. We're dinner only. And I love that, because you are the chef of your station. If you're a lead garmo, you're in charge of your station. If you're pasta, you're in charge of making the pasta and executing it during dinner service. If you're the meat cook, you're responsible for prepping the meat station, and you're responsible for cooking that. And it just keeps chefs more in tune with what they're doing, how they're doing it. No one's covering their days off. That's it. That's what you're doing 4 days a week. And I like the consistency aspect of that.
Blue tape or green tape?
Green tape, of course.
Cut it? Tape cutter, scissors?
Always.
Tear it?
Always.
What do you do?
Yeah, no heathens in our kitchen. No tape tearing heathens in our kitchen.
Okay.
Scissors, pocket knife, slicer, whatever. But yeah.
No torn tape.
No torn tape. Label date initial. That's been a struggle lately, but we're getting back there.
I'm a label date initial. So short. The shorter the better.
Yeah, tape's expensive.
Yeah. Date on product, date, initial.
Yes. It's not rocket science, but you'd be surprised.
It's simple. And it blows my mind that people are like, we don't have time to cut tape. It's like, you don't? It takes the same amount of effort to cut it as it does to tear it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, if you don't have time to cut tape,
then you're doing a lot of other things wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not about the cutting the tape. Like, if you don't want to cut the tape, that's fine.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't have time.
Yeah. And,
that's some lazy shit.
It was instilled on me, care about the tape, care about the product. You know,
Everything's
put your
important.
initials on it. You're proud of it. Like, I did this. Be proud.
Yeah.
Be proud of your knife skills. Be
That's
proud
what I
of
would say in the
everything.
kitchen. Everything's important. What's important? Everything.
Absolutely.
How do you know? Because everything's important.
And I always tell my guys, I'm like, you get the small things right, the big things end up coming together. But if you lose focus on the small things, it's tough. Like, it's going to be so much harder.
If you had a chef's PSA out there for people, what would it be?
I love this. Don't say heard.
Don't say heard. Yeah, why not? By the way, I'm a yes chef person or a chef person. I'm not a herd person.
My thing is always heard what? Heard what? Heard. Heard we're 10 minutes out. Heard we're 15 minutes out. Heard you know your next pick. You know what you're bringing. Don't say heard, because heard what? First course out on 2 beef. Did you hear we're first course out on 2 beef? Or are you just saying heard because you think you did? Because 5 minutes later, I'm be like, where's my beef? Oh, I didn't heard.
It just becomes an automatic response without thinking.
Yeah, and that's what I know it's dumb, but that is my pet peeve. I'm like,
you're gonna get beat up in the comments.
Okay, that's fine.
They're gonna come at you.
It's all right. They can't find me. I'm in Omaha. So.
If you had a Mount Rushmore of chefs, who deserves to be on Mount Rushmore?
Definitely, obviously Thomas Keller. Philip Tessier. I spent some time working for him. I learned a ton. Just blown away by the things I learned from him. Kind of really changed my career course as a chef. Philip Meisel, my old chef, kind of took me under his wing, got me over to Europe, really kind of mentored me a lot on that next kind of steps after that. He was a really amazing chef. And, I think for the last one, it's got to be Escoffier. We always forget, like, where we came from. Who standardized the kitchen? Who gave us the brigade? Who...
He wrote a whole language.
Yeah, who gave us this world that we all get to be a part of? It was him,
People talk shit on Escoffier or on the French culinary system, but I don't, and I think we're not doing ourselves any favors by trash talking Escoffier. And here's why: what Escoffier built was brilliant. He built a whole language. Like, if you understand mirepoix and you understand mother sauces, and you understand this, and this plus this equals this, right? So you understand, you could go anywhere in the world. You could be in Tokyo, Japan. You could be in Austin, Texas. You could be in Chicago, and they could say, give me a sauce Chiron. You know exactly what it means.
100%.
Everyone knows what it meant.
Yeah.
And you were able to then say, okay, we have a system and we have a language that we could communicate in culinary wise. And it was able to be communicated all over the world, this culinary language that everyone understood. Like, okay, this plus this equals this. Boom, we get it.
And the thing I always go back to, the only way you can, combat the chaos and wildness of running a restaurant is structure and organization.
Right.
So, and Escoffier did that for us.
And I'm not saying that other cuisines and other cultures are less delicious or more delicious. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is he created a system that was easily teachable and scalable globally. And if other cultures and cuisines have done that, I just don't know about it. Yeah. I'm not saying they haven't. It's not so easy to go across to everywhere all over the world and say, can you do this? Like, well, no, I'm not familiar with that. But there is some sort of culinary fundamental language, the basics that we understand. Like, hey, do you know what mirepoix is? Yeah, it's this. Do you know what a fumet is? Yes. Do you know what a stock is? Yeah, we got it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's stuff you're just going to use every day. Bechamel. I mean, Mornay, there's just stuff that so important that gets used every day. And a lot of people don't even know, but that was Escoffier.
Yeah. He gave us an alphabet.
Yeah.
And then he gave us grammar. And then with that grammar, we're able to put sentences, and then we're able to tell stories, right? That's the menu. That's the food that you create. Anyway, that's my Escoffier rant. Last question. If you had a bucket list, did we do all 4 for Mount Rushmore?
We did. Yeah, I think so.
Keller. Yeah. Okay. We did. If you had a bucket list chef, living or dead, that you wanted to have their food, who would it be and why?
I mean, there's a few.
Just one chef.
Just one chef. Probably I would have loved to have experienced El Bulli.
Yeah.
As I'm getting older, you always say you're going to eat at this restaurant. Sometimes you can't. Yeah. And that's a bummer. I would have loved to kind of, not that I'm a big molecular guy, but I would love to just seen that executed and the 20-course tasting and all the wild stuff, because it was a game changer for the culinary world for a long time, and it's gone now.
It was an evolutionary jump for
Yeah.
the industry. Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah.
Well, Chef, where can people find you?
Every Thursday night I'm working service at Au Courant, sometimes more. I have an Instagram. It's Swiss Benny. I'm trying to be more posting on there and just kind of highlighting more what I'm doing.
And what's Au Courant's Instagram?
Au Courant Restaurant.
AU.
AUCOURANT. That's our passion project. We have a lot of fun there.
Awesome. Food looks great.
Well, thank you, Chef. Appreciate it.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the show. You know what to do. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you leave 5 stars, or Apple, or anywhere else. Nothing less than 5 stars. It's a 5-star podcast, and I appreciate it. That goes a long way. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. You can comment, let me know what you think. Go to chefspsa.com and hook yourself up. Get the latest books, merch, including free ebooks, my newest book, Bad Cooks Everywhere, and you can find out what we're up to at Chef's PSA. We'll see you next week. Hit the porno music.
No small drink in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.